So I'm having this conversation with my stepdad, and he's been on some medicine, not feeling so well, foggy in the head. And it was perfect timing for me to call him. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, Albuquerque time. And he's in bed. We do some stretches, move some air around. We do some breathing, clear his brain, get rid of some of that fog. He gets settled. And when he's back, he's beginning to get in this calm and meditative state. This is where it came from this, all right? Because he was calm, and he's a very spiritual American Indian, Spanish American Indian, okay? And he's always had the stories of just really deep thought, contemplative, and I just loved it. It goes back to Indian nature where they ask you a question and you could ponder on it for 4 weeks. So he became calm and meditative, and then he connected to his God source. He goes, "Did I ever tell you that story about how the apple tree grows?" Right? I said, "No, I don't think so. If you want to share, I'd love to hear about it." So he was very calm and peaceful, and he brought me to this place where the trees are in the orchard, just set up this beautiful scene, and the animals around the trees, and the wind blowing and the breeze. I could see myself there. So he began to share this story that he knew from long ago of how an apple tree grows. One would think how an apple tree grows is you put a seed in the ground, and that's not where this is going. He shared introspect on the nature of the tree, okay? And he got into the intricacies of all the components of just breathing. Like he made this tree like this breathing, living, it's alive, and it could move even right in my mind. When he shared this introspect on nature of tree, he says that it doesn't grow and make its fruit for itself. And I said, the tree doesn't grow and make fruit for itself. Who ever thought of it that way? And I was perplexed at the depth of this, of how does the apple tree grow and that it doesn't grow and make fruit for itself. So then he goes on and he says, does the apple tree grow by itself? His fingers, okay, opens up a whole nother space of does the apple tree grow by itself? So I introspected just for, a few moments, right? He gave me some space. Based on the depth of that last question, I assumed that the apple tree does not grow by itself. In his slow, calm voice, he says, well, you've got the sun, you've got the wind, you got the air it breathes, you got the animals and the critters and the pollinators that are all part of this community. Yeah. So he goes on and he's like, earth and nature nurture the tree. Water and rain tickle its roots, feed it, and fertilize it. And it has its leaves for the lungs to breathe. And the critters scampering around, they till, they sow, they reap, and they scratch it in those hard to get places, he says. My mind is just eating up all of these beautiful, fun visualizations. He shares them quite vividly, and I see the commonality between the trees and me. And these are some answers I sought to find. And well, Dad, he was one of the Enlightenment kind, and he goes deeper. He said, going through life and the spiritual journey, do you see how similar we are in this paradigm with the trees? So my imagination at this time is on full power as he adds a new twist. Like, what if we grow like trees? You ever think about what kind of fruit is hanging off of me? I kind of laughed, like, okay, what are you saying, Dad? Where are we going with this? However, I had to go back to like, wow, that was really deep. What if we grow like trees? And do you ever think about what kind of fruit is hanging off me? And I laughed, a little bit uncomfortably, I have to say. Now, I don't refer to fancy jewelry decorating your tree, he says. He says, am I a big tree? Asking about himself. Am I a big tree? Am I not at other times a little tree? Dad knew that piqued me. And he left me in that space. He said it was time to rest and thanked me for reaching out. And he was feeling better and moving that energy that had worn him out, as he laughed at me as he always did. A deep realization and introspect and retrospect occur in my thoughts as he hung up, right? And he just left me sitting with a giant space where I could really newly discover my synchronicities, that world going around me, right? As the fruits on the tree, and the communities, and human beings in our world. And perhaps the fruit I put out determines my tree status clout, right? Does it matter where my tree hangs out? Of course it does. I am also severely influenced by all those other trees and their fruits mulling about. The fruits are not for us like we ought to believe. They're your personality traits and happiness, and they glisten for others to perceive, flashing about among your leaves. Trees of love, light, and energy, trees of mango, golden kiwi, plum, pear, banana, peach, and blueberry. Those are the trees I choose mulling about me. Big, strong, kind, gentle, and healthy. I see now the complexity of what was escaping me. It was a managed space with my bonus dad's conversation this day to share and enlighten what I saw, yet I couldn't see. Is the metaphor of this tree's teaching about relate to me and my status clout? Is he a fruit on my tree? I say yes, quite lovingly. I see a spirit owl energy intuitively. Yep, that's my dad, wise as can be. What fruits are hanging on your tree? What critters are coming about to fertilize and spread your seeds? Blue butterflies, orange birds, purple dragonflies are what I see. Oh, the beauty of my tree. I love this responsibility. Thank you, God, for this opportunity. And so that was conversation. I shortened it a little bit, put in Dad's fun stuff from April. This is October. And what occurred as I'm going through this situation, this circumstantial situation, is in my meditation, I had this fruit, what fruit is hanging on your tree, come in. And my intuition from following the synchronicity signs, it says, don't get involved in the minutiae. And then I'm passing through someone's paradigm of the life they created so true. It was quite a spectacular happening, I have to say, and it was indeed guided before the coming of this being chided. So someone did give me a little bit of a hard time, but I glided. I really slid right through it. Yeah, it didn't have the power that it would have had in the past had I not been managing my own synchronicities, right? And this tree, the fruits on my tree, and who am I hanging out with? Like, right? Pull back, manage where you are, when you are there. Yeah. So that clue that comes and appears in this message of what fruits are hanging on your tree and the inquiry of who is eating your apples, and hanging around me. So eating your apples, that's energy. That's the tree's energy. Who's taking your energy? Who's eating your apples? So this is my intuitive message that came from all of this in meditation. So I thought at first the purpose of revisiting this poem that I just read about my conversation with a friend and then the fruits on the tree It was to enjoy the moment that in which the story was told. Remember the moment of the story. Now that I've read through this piece, it's occurring to me in a new reading or new understanding of the synchronicity that comes from the conversation between Fred and myself, and then the other people that I had conversations with also. So what fruit, right? Am I eating their fruits? Because they're supporting me and giving me strength and, like power-ups. That's what the fruits are. What if the fruits are power-ups? And people are powering up off of me, but all right, we're going to let that, because it plays out with the rest of this conversation. But I have the power to choose where I will be and who will be graced with the presence of thee and the fruit on my tree. And what a wonderful blessing that appears so gracefully. It's very freeing. The realization of letting go of the worry and the contemplation that I am actually realistically free to be, free to do, and free to act in how it pleases me. And that curmudgery and that dread and unhappiness just dig deeper into the hole, that space of negativity. And this in turn requires equal and more positivity. So as much positivity and more of the curmudgery, the dread and the unhappiness, right? That bigger hole. To get back out, you got to dig, and you need that positive energy to get out of there, or you're just staying down there. To balance the scene. So my intuitive message said, this in turn requires equal and more positivity and ways of being to balance the scene. So it almost occurs like my mission was there to balance energy, okay? If there was a mission, that's why they said don't get involved in the minutia. And when I say they, it's like what is your intuition? Your mind talking to you, what is that? So then it gave me this little piece right here that says, whose energy is dedicated to the positive energy being? So whose energy is dedicated to the positive energy being, right? So there's 2 people on that scene with positive energy, and there was 4. No, there's 3. 3 and 3 is where we were in that space. I'd say 3 and 3. And then who keeps using energy by negatively seeing? So who keeps feeding and taking those apples away from frustrating others, right? So who keeps using energy by negatively seeing? So when you negatively see a point of view, like negatively, I'm not saying to see it in an alternate way, okay? Alternate's one thing, but negative is when you're taking somebody's energy away by impacting, right? Their way of being. You're taking their energy. They're giving it. I got a little emotional in that event, but this much. And my don't get caught in the minutia message came back up again that I had earlier, right before I went into it. It's amazing how it all played through. And I was able to stop and check myself, what's going on here? Why is this person saying this and this person saying this? That does not fit. That does not compute. That does not fit in my space of my world that I've created. What the heck? And then a positive energy being comes into the space. Seriously, God sent a positive energy human into that space, and literally it was picking him up and dropping him down somewhere. The other one, pick him up, drop him down. I was there's a safety shield, force field. It was amazing. What is the message that keeps repeating? What is the message that keeps repeating? Find it, unhide it, and resolve the mystery. Not like Sherlock Holmes, right? Because we are all repeaters. As long as we dedicate time to listen for that message of what's repeating. It could be repeating for others, and it's what's repeating for others around us does relate to us. Can't put that off on someone. So what message is repeating? And the goal is to clear those repeating messages, right? We clear the messages, we clear the emotion, we transmute it, and we don't get impacted, triggered. The triggers don't come. I was being blamed for holding a space, being strong. So I see that I'm being challenged to stay big and to find the way to do that powerfully, clearly, and courageously, without emotion, without pulling out that way of being from back when, to have people ease off of you. You start crying. Any woman starts crying, or even anybody, right? You're like, okay, I back off, right? That's not what I want. And some people dig that. They're like, yeah, I got her, man, you know? So there's things in there for me to clear, right? About, there was no really responsibility thing. It was responsibility for like just a feeling. I was allowed to have a feeling. I had a feeling about something. And I thought it was great what we were talking about. And they're like, how could you think that's great? Because I'm free to choose how I feel. And that's how I felt. It seems like the message that keeps repeating is being big and staying big. Because you can be big, but then you can't play small again. Because you're big. And when you're big, you don't play small. You stand for what you're stand for. And your message is your message. Till it's not. Intuitive message continues, and it says, in the spaces you hold, in, on, and around your tree so bold, be mindful of the visitors you hold, and determine to whom your fruit and shade should be sold. In the spaces you hold, in, on, and around your tree so bold, be mindful of the visitors you hold, and determine to whom your fruit and shade should be sold. For now, that's the story to be told. Much love. Namaste. That was this like meditative interpretation after reading this piece and that incident, that occurrence. I just really see how this book is validated that I'm creating. The fruit hanging on a tree, these stories, right? Create spaces like building blocks, a jumping off point for people with similar dispositions. And I imagine with life being how it is out in the world, there's so many patterns that repeat. How many people really benefit from seeing how this is managed and what comes from that once you realize it out in the real world. So thank you. I was successfully navigated that. My friend that did come in managed to just get that person out of that very the state of inquiry that they were in, and also took them off of another individual that was a positive energy being. And yeah, it was a good day, and he found a new power also in himself. There was acknowledgement for the tribe that was there, and trying not to react through anything and just letting it go, because I was meant to just pass through that space, not make anything out of it, and just really be aware of who the spaces I hold in, on, and around my tree so bold, and be mindful of the visitors that I hold, and determine with whom your fruit and your shade should be sold. For now, that is the story to be told. Thank you for being here, and I'm pleased to be able to share this with you. And I hope you enjoy. Namaste, and I love you, friend.